Hello, everyone. Welcome to Maddox AI Plus Post Sales Summit. You are currently watching Build a Success Plan. I'm excited to introduce our speaker, Erica Villarreal, who is the Strategic Customer Success Manager at Eptura. Erica, I have an icebreaker question for you. What is one AI use case you wish existed but hasn't come out yet?
Yeah, well, when we talk about AI use cases, one thing that comes to mind for me specifically is one thing that I normally struggle in my personal life is remembering things that happen to me. Like I struggle with ADHD type of brain, and sometimes I forget experiences that I've had or struggles that I've lived, or when I don't know, a trip that I went, or things like that. Like things that you would want to remember with a lot of information. And sometimes I can't do that, right? So I wish I would have an AI use case where I could kind of like annotate all of those life experiences so I can go back in history and see this year I did this is how I felt, this is how I experienced that situation, and just have more information about myself, even my childhood, right? Because if you ask me, a lot of the things that I lived during my childhood I completely forgotten. So I wish I could have a way to go back and remember those things. So
Okay. I think your answer is probably my favorite. I would love to ask ChatGPT where I left my car keys. Sometimes I forget them. That'd be great. Awesome, Erica. I will pass it over to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining my session. Let me share my screen here. And I know that it's the last session of this AI Summit. So thank you very much for being here. And let me put this thing on presenter mode. I am Erika Villarreal. I am the Strategic Customer Success Manager at Eptura. It's a leading workspace management solution that helps companies, optimize their space. And I work a lot with real estate stakeholders, for example. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is helping CSMs become more strategic in how they approach conversations and how they engage with their customers. And today I'm going to be walking you through how I use AI to build more strategic success plans that actually resonate with your executive stakeholders. And funny enough, just a quick, also important thing to note is this week I also released my success plan playbook, which pretty much aligns very well with the topic that we're going to be covering today. Now, when I think about success planning, I feel like there's like two big parts to building a success plan. One of them being gathering as much information as you can from your customer and your executive stakeholder, and then using all of that information to build a strategy that can help, obviously, your customer achieve those outcomes that they set to achieve when they purchase your solution, right? Historically, when we think about research, it used to be something that took hours and hours to do, right? Like going to the website and downloading reports and analyzing those reports, and going to the LinkedIn and then finding the profile for the people that you're going to be working with, understanding what they care about. Like all of that research process took a lot of time. And now with AI, we can do that in minutes, right? And using AI to gather all of these insights will also help you get better insights to have better conversations with those executive stakeholders or people that you're going to be meeting with, have better and more structured discovery questions that you can bring to your conversations, and eventually build a success plan that is repeatable and that takes you less time than what it used to take you before. So one thing to note is that obviously AI will not be replacing strategy and strategic thinking. That's why we exist. And that's why I also feel like the CSM role is critical and it's not going to disappear, because you still need that human touch that can bring that strategy to that customer and have those discussions that can help them achieve their goals. What AI is helping me do right now is removing all of that manual work so I can focus on the more strategic work part of the role, right? Now, one thing to take in mind before I dive into the demo and talk about this in deeper level is I am an individual contributor, so I'm using AI in some basic ways, I think so, but I think I have something really cool to present to you all today. Now, let's set up the stage first. I am sure that I am not the only CSM here that has inherited an account with very limited information on the customer. Think maybe an account that transitioned from a previous CSM, or maybe you got it from onboarding from the sales team. And sometimes what ends up happening when you have those type of situations is that you end up having a customer with not as much background as you would like to really help the customer, achieve those outcomes that they said to achieve at the beginning. So you have to spend a lot of time, doing research and understanding what the business goals of that company is, understanding executive priorities, and mostly the customer challenges that they're facing. So I am using AI to power that research, and I built like this research framework that I like to call the ICE research framework that I'm going to be walking through with ChatGPT. I think any CSM with even the most basic level access of ChatGPT can do this type of workflows. And for the exercise that we're going to be covering today, I am going to be sharing an example for a company that we're going to name Acme Corporation. It's a public company, but bear in mind that this is actually one of my customers. So I'm just anonymizing the whole process that we're going to go through in ChatGPT. We are going to be building the success plan for a VP of global real estate, which is one of the main stakeholders that I work with here at my company at Aptura. And the product that this customer is using is mainly to, manage their space, optimize their portfolio, space planning, and they're also using reservations, which basically allows this company to bring people back into the office and monitor occupancy metrics and that sort of product use case, right? Now, why do we need to go through this process? Because obviously, one of the things that you don't want to happen is that you're going to schedule a call with your executive stakeholder, and the least thing that you want to do is come and just ask, what are your goals? I feel like no CSM should have to be put in a position where you have to ask something that the customer has said probably multiple times during the sales process or the implementation process. So this research framework will allow you to bring an assumption, kind of like a draft framework that you can review with your executive stakeholder during a discovery session. So you can be like in that first session, do not come off as someone that doesn't know anything about the customer, right? So that said, I'm going to dive into the demo to show you how this framework works. So I'm just gonna go into my other screen and we can kick off this process. 1 second. Google Chrome. Alrighty, so now I am sharing my ChatGPT screen to show you how this process would work. Now, the first step that I like to do during this research process that will help me build a success plan is understand the company priorities and understand the business priorities of the company, right? So to do that, I've created a prompt that allows me to research one of the most underlooked resources that public companies have available in their websites, and that's the 10K report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a 10K report for Acme Corporation. This 10K report is a real 10K report from one of my customers. What I did, I just anonymized the whole thing and changed the name of the company to Acme Corporation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a prompt to summarize and use this, analyze this report to give me all of the details that are, 1 second, all of the details that are important for these companies. For example, here, what I'm asking for, because I'm in the workplace industry and I'm talking to a VP of a real estate stakeholder, I am going to ask AI to give me a summary of everything that's related to real estate. So if the 10K report has anything on the real estate portfolio, if they have leases versus own portfolio, what that portfolio looks like from a regional standpoint. I'm asking it to give me anything that has to do with lease obligations, because that's a big responsibility of a VP of real estate. Anything related to cost reductions, efforts like footprint reduction, subleasing, energy efficiency. So I put all of these bullet points here of things that are related to things that my product can help this customer with. And then what this thing is going to do is going to give me a summary of anything in this report that can help me build a story and gather some background around the company. So let's see how this works. I'm going to just click go. And this is going to read the 10K report that I am putting here. And I'm going to give it a few seconds to work. And now what this prompt is doing, it's basically summarizing the 10K report from this company, and it's giving me an executive summary of the business portfolio of Acme Corporation. For example, here, 260 offices worldwide, 1 billion in undiscounted commitments for leases. It gives me the detail of the real estate portfolio, like how many offices are, how many headquarters do they have, how many offices in the US, and so on and so on. It gives me the detail of the portfolio metrics. Obviously, I am asking AI only to give me information from this report and not look at outside sources, so I can validate the information with a document that I downloaded from their website. And if I keep scrolling down, I can find here lease obligations, occupancy costs, and this thing also analyzes the trends for the previous years. So for example, I can see here that the lease commitments went from 162 to 150 in 2025. This gives me insights of what this means and translates it to insights that I can use in conversations with my customer, and that can help me spark some interesting, discovery questions that I can validate with my stakeholder on an initial call, so I can gather more feedback from the executive stakeholder. It also has information on the future leases and the commitments, and we can see here how the lease commitments are starting to come down as time evolves. It also gives me what this, like a strategic implication of what this means. If I keep scrolling down, it's going to give me cost reduction, efficiency initiatives, strategic priorities that are connected to the workplace and operations. For example, here it says there's a section in the CEO letter for this 10K report that talks about modernization of operations, simplification of the business, AI-enabled productivity is high in their priorities, and multi-year transformation initiatives, for example. All of these came from the CEO letter. Why this matters to real estate, portfolio efficiency, space optimization, all of the things that are related to things that my VP of real estate would care about, right? I also asked in this prompt to give me anything that's related to the return to office strategy or hybrid work. It was very blunt and told me there's nothing around this in this report, so you would have to look elsewhere. But one of the key things with the 10K reports, and the things that I really like about this type of reports, is that it gives you literally financial metrics of their operations, and this information can then streamline into conversations like portfolio optimization. And when I'm having a conversation with the VP of real estate, I can bring insights of how he has been able to optimize the real estate in previous years, and ask about the goals in the future and things like that. So if I scroll down here, let me see. It also summarizes the key takeaways. It gives me which page of the report has this information. So as you can see, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's a lot of information. But this is going to, at the end, summarize what the things that are going to be important for my success plan, like optimizing lease global real estate portfolio, reducing occupancy and operating costs, improving visibility into workplace utilization. So instead of coming in with no information at all and having a conversation with this person and asking things that I should already know, I am using this as a resource that can help, spark that initial conversation and have a more strategic conversation with the customer. So this is step one of the research framework. I focused on the company right now, but then what I do is I also like to focus on the executive stakeholders. So one thing is understanding what the company is doing and what the company's priorities are. And then the second part of it is understanding what the executive is doing and what the executive cares about. So to do the research on the executive, I've come in and I've also prepared prompt to use to better understand who a VP of global real estate is. And if you're asking about the prompts, I'm going to make sure that I can share these with you all. 1 second. Let me get the next prompt here. So the next step on the process here is going to be to research the executive stakeholder. So in this next prompt here, I'm asking AI to give me anything that you can find of a global real estate stakeholder, what the role and responsibilities for this type of person is, the title, anything that AI can find on job descriptions that gives you the specific activities that they're responsible for, the strategic initiatives that this person would care about, programs, transformation, any initiatives that are top priority for a VP of global real estate, what are their common challenges and success metrics. As you can see, these are the things that are core of a success plan. So let's see what happens when I run this prompt for Acme Corporation. Now, if I continue doing here the analysis, this is going to give me what the role and responsibilities of a VP of real estate is. Sometimes there's different, alternative titles for someone that does the same type of thing, like real estate and facilities. Sometimes it includes other areas as well, like workplace and experience. So this thing is going to give me a full scope of similar roles as well, because they might intersect with the type of, metrics that these people care about that you are going to be building the success plan with, right? It talks about core responsibilities and number one, always portfolio strategy, occupancy and space planning, financial management, which has to do with reducing occupancy costs, improving portfolio efficiency. A real estate stakeholder would also care about workplace operations, workplace technology, so anything that can help manage occupancy, reservation, workplace analytics. And then I keep scrolling down. It also gives me who this person normally reports to, which in this case, normally the CFO, or sometimes they work in parallel with people from HR. And then I have all of the strategic initiatives that this person is leading. And for each of these, goals or part of the responsibilities of the role, then what this prompt is doing is it's also tying it to the first prompt that we already did for the company research part of the process, right? So it gives you what the objectives would be given the feedback that we learned from the 10K report, has a cost reduction, expense discipline, data-driven workplace strategy, and you can keep scrolling down with all the different things that we're learning from this VP of real estate. It also is giving me the common challenges and some of these to highlight: portfolio rationalization, understanding how space is being used, which are the offices that are currently at capacity, which are the ones that need to be expanding, which ones do we need to close. All of these type of things are the things that my VP of real estate normally has top of mind. And with this information, what I need to do is figure out how my solution can help, number one, solve these challenges, and how we're going to measure these metrics in a way that resonate with this with the VP of real estate. So here, for example, it's giving me a list of multiple different metrics that this stakeholder would care about, from efficiency, financial capacity, experience, and even from operations standpoint. And then at the end, it also gives me how I can add value with Eptura solutions, right? Which basically, if these are the products that this stakeholder is using, gives me information on how to start strategic conversations. And these are the things that can, you can bring into your conversation with the executive stakeholder once you meet with that person. And instead of coming in asking questions that you should already know, this one would help you validate part of the information that you've already put together from the 10K report and from just understanding what this executive person cares about. And finally, this one is going to give me a summary of the things that I would need to validate from everything I've learned from all of the research that I've been able to do in 5 minutes or less. And perfect. So right now I've completed the first 2 steps. Number 1 is understanding the company. Number 2 is understanding the executive stakeholder. So then with this information, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to ask to build a success plan draft with the information that I already have, right? Now, remember, this draft is not something that's final. This is just gonna give you a baseline on what you need to start to have that first conversation with the person that you will be meeting, right? It gives me a success plan overview with a customer overview, the priorities of the executive, global real estate portfolio, reducing occupancy, workplace planning and governance, improving employee experience, which is one of the top priorities for this person. And then it gives me some of the business challenges, the strategic business outcomes and how we're going to measure it, and the success metrics here at the end. So right now we have a baseline, right? We know some of the metrics that this person would care about. We know some of the challenges. Now the next step would be using this information to schedule a discovery session with the executive stakeholder and validate what's actually important to this person, right? This is not set in stone. It can be changed, and it's going to depend on the conversations that you have with the executive, right? Now, let's say that it also gives me here some draft milestones if I can scroll down all the way to the bottom, right? Now, it is also giving me some questions that I need to validate, which are the real estate initiatives that are the most important to you. Like, do you have any specific occupancy cost reduction targets? And these are like ideas that you can ask, some questions that you can ask during your calls that are more strategically driven based on the research that you've done for both the company and the stakeholder, right? Now, what I'm going to do next is I am going to import one of the discovery sessions that I've had with this customer, precisely going through all of this research and validating what actually resonates with this person, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to add the transcript of my strategic conversation with this stakeholder, again, anonymized for this precisely example. And then I am going to ask these to update the plan based on the conversation that you've had where the stakeholder actually shared what the common challenges for the role are and what the strategic priorities are based off that discussion, right? So here's the transcript of my call, and then I'm just going to click go. Here it says, you had a strategic conversation with the VP. Please review the transcript and update the success plan with the key insights from our call. So here it's now giving me an updated version of the success plan for this specific stakeholder based on the discussion that I had, the strategic discussion and all of the questions that I confirmed during that session. And after uploading this call transcript, I was able to validate that for example, the reduction on the real estate portfolio is not necessarily one of their top priorities. But during the conversation, I learned that maximizing existing capacity before expanding footprint is number one. So when I met with John Smith in this case, one of the things that I've learned was that they have several locations where they are struggling with space. They have a lot more people than they have space. And they were using a previous solution from Eptura also. And in that solution, they were not able to they were not able to configure the spaces in a way that would allow more people to book those spaces. So we had to go through a process of, onboarding a new solution. And right now, one of their main priorities is obviously being successful with that second product that they just implemented, right? So reducing unavailable seating is one of the top priorities. Improving reservation compliance is another top priority. Like people that do not show to their reservations, or the lack of accountability of people making a reservation and then not showing up. And another priority for the stakeholder is establishing workplace standards, neighborhood strategy, priority seating, meeting room controls, and all of this information is taken from the transcript that I attached. Now, what would be really ideal is for me not to have to be doing this manually. Like whenever I think about things that I could improve during this, success planning session, I would really love to be able to connect, my goals to the projects that I have for the success plans that I'm building for my customers. So that way it is automatically updated as conversations start to, you start to have more conversations with your customers. I am not in that level of, I am not in that level of using AI yet. It's things that I'm thinking about and that I wish that I had, but I don't. So doing these transcript calls is always, for me, very helpful because it keeps me accountable. It keeps the customer accountable, and it helps me build better plans when I'm doing, call transcripts and translating these to the challenges and business priorities of my customers. It updated the business outcomes. And at the end, it is also going to give me the milestones based on the conversation that we had. Strategic initiatives based on our conversation. I think scroll down. The metrics that he's going to be interested in measuring moving forward, reservation efficiency and no-show rate is top of their priorities. And as you can see here, our assumption of real estate consolidation that was given from the 10K report is not necessarily something that he cares about. So that's why it is very important not to, create a success plan and then think that that's like the end of it. It's actually validating it with your customer, going through the strategic questions that AI can help you ask, and then update the success plan based on your learnings, right? It is also giving me the immediate action items, which are going to be tied to the milestones that we need to complete to make sure that the customer is successful. And it also gives me what changed from the research part of the process to, completing the analysis once I had that conversation and uploaded the file with the transcript on the call. How much time do I have? I think I went through this very fast. And then something else that I have been playing with that I'm still, refining is one of the other things that takes a lot of time when you're building the plan is creating that framework, whether you're using, Excel spreadsheet or you're using a Word document or a presentation. So things that I haven't gotten as great as, but I am, exploring as I continue to learn more about AI and cloud code and all of these great things, great tools that are put in our hands to streamline our work, is actually creating the plan in the format that you want, and having all of the information from your research and your discovery, populate that plan in a plan that you can share with your customer easily, and they can start seeing, the changes that you're making and commenting on it. So that's something that is still in the works, but again, I continue to learn as I go. Sometimes I feel like I go slower than the rest, but I guess I'm doing the best I can. Anyway, I see that there's a couple of questions, I think, or no?
No questions. And we are at the end, Erica. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All of the recordings will be available tomorrow on the Resource Hub, and we'll notify you all when it's available. Thank you again, Erica, so much, our wonderful speaker, for joining us today. And thank you to everyone else for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Have a great one.